Welcome to the Quest Forums channel, and we're continuing our study of Mark's Gospel. We're looking at Mark chapter 3, verses 7 through 35. I go over that chapter in the article that's associated with this video, and you can find the link to that in the description below. But I want to focus on one story, or it's not even really a story, it's just a comment here. Really the main focus of this passage is what we see towards the end of it, and it's about deciding whose side you're going to be on. Are you going to be for Jesus or against him? And so we find here that, again, the religious leaders and now Jesus' family, his physical family, that they are against him. They don't recognize him for who he is. But then Jesus describes how his true family is the family of faith, those who do the will of God by following him. And so that's the most important point, but there's a good kind of illustration of this, I think, in a comment, just a single line, not even a line, up in verse 18. Where the disciples are called by Jesus, or the apostles are called by Jesus, his 12 closest followers. And one of them is called Simon the Zealot. And it's the only thing that we know about him in the Bible. He's mentioned 3 other times, but each time is just another list of the apostles like this one is. But it's important that he's called a zealot, because that meant more than what we think of it today. We think of that meaning religious fervor, but it was more than that in first century Judea. That meant that you were someone basically in a rebellious movement, that you wanted to have an overthrow of the Roman occupation in order to free Judea religiously and physically, militarily. So this is the type of person that we have here. It's probably why he came to Jesus in the first place. Because it does seem like in lots of other passages in the Gospels that people were expecting Jesus to lead this type of movement. And so that might have been what drew Simon in the first place. Now, what I find so interesting about him is the fact that just a few names before him in the list of apostles is Matthew. Matthew, or Levi, who was mentioned in the previous chapter of Mark as having been a tax collector. And tax collectors were the total opposite of the zealots. They were Roman collaborators. They were people who extorted their own countrymen in order to support the Romans and also in order to line their own pockets. And there is a reason why they were considered the very worst people that lived in that society. And so you have really natural enemies with Simon and Matthew. These are people who, on all accounts, should have hated each other. But instead, here we find them united by living with Jesus, by being with him, learning from him, and learning to do the things that he did. And that's pretty incredible to me. And again, it's speculative on my part, but I just think that that is kind of the natural conclusion to draw. I do like to go even further and wonder if maybe there's a point later on where Jesus sends the apostles out 2 by 2. I do like to think that he put them together, because that would have made for some interesting situations and conversations, I think. But regardless of that, it is just amazing. It's a great example of the fact that the things that drive us apart really come to nothing when we are in Christ. That when we're united in him, we can start to see what's really most important, what makes us the same, and then we can work together to accomplish kingdom goals. And we should be able to realize that nothing really should separate us when we're united in the Lord, when we share in the mission that he has brought in order to bring salvation to the world. And I just think that that really is a good illustration of this point of where family really should be. Because it's great to have a good relationship with your natural family. It's a very valuable thing. But there are people who find when they become Christians that they lose those relationships or other social connections. And that needs to be okay. Because God's family is the most important relationship that we can have. And that's the one that we need to secure, that we need to rely on. And so I just do think that this is a good way to point that out. But what do you think about it? Have you ever noticed this about Simon? Or is there some other point that you thought about in watching this that you'd like to share? Or maybe you just have a question about this or something else in the Bible. I'd love to hear from you. Just leave a comment below here. Also, make sure to check out the other links in the description. There's some important things there. Thanks for watching this video. And until next time, keep looking up.